Hey, welcome to the shop. Today we are going to be covering troubleshooting with your HVAC system. So we're going to stick to the pressure side of troubleshooting because in troubleshooting your HVAC, your air conditioning system, there are a couple of different problems that could go wrong with it. You could have a mechanical problem, you could have an electrical problem, or you could have a pressure problem. So we're going to kind of deal with strictly the pressure side because I've gone over electrical problems in the past and how to troubleshoot those. Mechanical problems, there's two main things that can go wrong in your AC system in regards to mechanical. That's your fan and your compressor. But we are going to go into the pressure side because this is going to deal with pretty much a gas, that a controlled gas that you really don't want to vent out into the ozone. So in most gases we're going to use an R134A. There's a newer gas coming out that is a, what is it, at R1234YF. That'll be replacing it soon, and they're trying to get more stringent on the gas that's being used in order to keep out that depleting chemical. The R12 that had a when released into the atmosphere would bond with the oxygen and or bond with oxygen chemicals and pretty much cause chlorine in the upper atmosphere, and of course that's not very good for the ozone because it starts breaking down the ozone layer. So we're going to go ahead and get into the components that you'll be using to diagnose. So number one, always wear PPE. So you want your safety glasses, you want gloves. You are dealing with fluids and gases that are under pressure. So make sure that you wear safety glasses and gloves. So we're going to start with the first bit, and the first tool that you're going to be using, or the main tool that you're going to be using, is the manifold gauge. So this is a manifold pressure gauge. It has two sides, one high, one low. Each of the sides has a corresponding port attachment. So the connector connects to the port. They're specifically sized so that the high will only fit on the high and the low will only fit on the low. That way you cannot mix up the two whatsoever. So there is high and low, and these gauges read PSI. So they read they read PSI. They don't read temperature. They read PSI. So now that we have that, and the next thing you want to do is you want to inspect your manifold gauges before use. You want to check the hoses, make sure that they're not dry rot, there's not cracks, leaks, or anything like that. You want to check the port connectors. You want to make sure that the retaining bearings are still on the inside. You want to make sure that it's free and clear of debris, because the last thing you want to do is to contaminate your system. I mean, the smallest piece of lint getting in can cause a clog in your orifice tube or in your TXV valve. Any unwanted moisture that you end up forcing into the system could eventually take out your compressor. So you really want to be almost clean roomish when dealing with your HVAC system. So after you've inspected everything, you want to make sure that the valves on the port connectors are set to open. You don't want to try to pull the collar back and attach the connector while the valve is closed, because it'll immediately start depressing the valve for the connector, and you'll start venting some of that gas. So make sure it's open before you clip it in place. Once it's clipped in place, then secure the cap down tightly, or secure the valve down tightly, and that will depress and allow the pressure gauge to start reading the pressure. The next thing you want to have with you is a temperature pressure chart. This temperature pressure chart is going to give you what your pressure should be on the high and the low at the current ambient temperature. Now, when I say ambient temperature, I mean what is immediately the temperature in your area. You can check your phone to get that temperature. It's not technically your area, but you want to have a thermometer nearby so that you can get the reading. If you don't, you can go off of the widget on your phone, but you want the current ambient temperature because this is going to affect your pressure readings. Now, once you've hooked up your manifold gauges, everything is secured. You do not have to do this test with the vehicle running. In fact, you probably shouldn't. You just leave the vehicle off. It should be under pressure, and it should give you pretty close readings. You can start your vehicle up to get the compressor going to make sure that the high is showing high and the low is showing the proper low. But now, once you've gotten those pressures stabilized by the compressor and the TXV valve, we're going to go ahead and start going through. So here we're going to show basically what your average pressure reading should be, and so it should be running around 30 psi on the low and about 220 psi on the high. That's what I explained in the last video. These are average based on an average temperature of around about 80 degrees. Now, if these temperatures were to show, let's say this would be a low on the low side and a low on the high side. Now, this can mean a couple of different things. Number one, the system could be undercharged. That means that there's not enough refrigerant in your system that's moving around, so there's not enough to cause a pressure on a high side and there's not enough to reading on the low side. The other problem could be is that your TXV valve is stuck closed, so that it could be clogged or closed, or your orifice tube, if you have an orifice tube, that could be clogged, and that could give you a low reading. So just there with that pressure alone, that brings it just to those items. Now, if you were to check it and maybe it's showing this, where it's showing high on the high side and high on the low side, that'll show you a couple different things as well. That will show you that, one, you could be overcharged. That'll be too much refrigerant in your system. Or it could also mean that there's air in your system, depending on the temperature of the air coming out of the vents. So now that you've checked that, we can move on to this reading here. You could have high on the low side, low on the high side. This could mean a possible weak compressor that's just not pumping, or you could have a clog going on in your orifice tube. Sorry about that, I had to have a little break. Doing some yard work across the street, and he's definitely not aware that I'm filming. So as I said, if you're showing high on the low side, low on the high side, you can be showing a weak compressor, or you could be showing a clog in the THX valve, or TXV valve, or the orifice tube. So those are those possibilities. Next will be if you have high on the low side and you're getting a normal reading on the high side. This will show that your TXV valve has been stuck open and is not regulating the pressures properly. Again, once checking all of these against the readings, one of the third reading that I didn't talk about that you'll want to actually check for is you're going to want to check what the temperature is coming out of the vent. So that temperature corresponding with what these pressures are will give you a little bit more accurate reading on what the problem could possibly be. So now that we have this, we went ahead and I ran a check on an engine, and we hooked up the manifold gauge to it, and we were showing the pressure. So here we have everything hooked up, the engine is running, and we're showing a fluctuation on the low side. So the low is the needle is bobbing up and down, and on the high side it's pretty much showing that it's low. So usually that'll mean that your compressor is either weak, or like I said, or there could be a clog in the TXV valve, and the pressure is you're watching the pressure rise, and then the cutoff, the safety cutoff for reading too high a pressure on the low side will cut off the compressor, and you'll see that needle drop from the pressure, and then you'll see it rise back up because the compressor starts up again. So those are kind of things to look for visually when you're doing your troubleshooting. So thanks for joining me. After this, taking your troubleshooting readings, we're going to go into our next segment where we're going to talk about evacuating the system, testing the system, and cleaning the system and replacing any of the parts. All right, thanks for joining me. Stay dirty.